The name of this presentation is Witches in a Crumbling Empire. I've named it such because I am attempting to make several bold assertions about the state of our world and our place in it. I intend to claim territory. I intend to reclaim a conceptual and political landscape that we as witches have abandoned for too long to others. This is a political presentation. To follow along, you'll need already to have accepted a core truth that many people deny. Witchcraft is political. By political, I do not mean that it's aligned with certain electoral politics. There's nothing inherently liberal or democratic, Republican or conservative about our craft. When I say that witchcraft is political, I mean that witches are political subjects. We live in cities and towns and nations which make laws to which we are subjected. Our access to the world around us is limited by political structures, not least of which is the capitalist notion of private property. I cannot merely go outside my door and build a small shrine to a crossroads deity in the middle of an intersection. The land under that crossroads is not mine to work with, at least according to the laws of the city. And anyway, it's sealed over in asphalt and constantly transversed by large vehicles, called cars, that might kill me if I were to stand in the way. There's a law for this, actually, under which I've been previously arrested. It's called Pedestrian Interference of Traffic. It can land you up to a year in prison for daring to interrupt that all-important movement of sport utility vehicles from office to suburban home. No better law, I think, describes the upside-down world of modern capitalism better than this one. People who travel with their feet can become criminals by merely daring to stand in the way of people traveling by machines. The very human act of walking upon 2 feet is something I've been doing for all but 8 months of my life. Walking is pretty fantastic. It's a complex movement of balance, one few other species have ever even done. And we almost need nothing to do it. Just the same sorts of things we need to do anything else with our muscle and bone. We need food to turn into energy. We need air to fill our blood with oxygen. Water to provide the most basic of chemical reactions, which fire the entire process. We might wear shoes, but we don't need them. And if we wear shoes, we might wear socks to keep our feet from chafing. Some people might require canes or crutches to walk. Most of us will, at some point in our lives. Some people require wheelchairs. But otherwise, what is needed to walk is quite minimal. Compare this to what is needed for an automobile. A car requires roads, which require the felling of trees, the flattening of land, the diversion of streams, and the pouring of asphalt, which, by the way, is petroleum tar mixed with bits of rock and sand. Cars also require gasoline or diesel, both of which are liquids created by electricity-intense refinement of raw petroleum, pumped from the earth and then transported long distances before reaching the fuel tank of your car. And more. A car requires plastics, which are again petroleum. It requires steel and other composite metals, which were gouged out of mountainsides or mining pits and forged in energy-intense mills and refineries. All of that needs transporting yet again by more petroleum products to automobile factories where workers assemble them in electricity-intense environments. All of this happens before the car reaches an auto lot, where it is then sold to people who save money earned from work to put down payments on them and drive them home. Walking causes remarkably little damage to the earth, while everything it takes to create and operate an automobile causes intense destruction. Yet contained in that one law, the pedestrian interference of traffic, is an entire upside-down world view which punishes the actions of a single human who might dare temporarily delay irrevocable destruction. Everything that goes into creating an automobile also makes profit for someone. The contractors who cut down the trees and who lay the asphalt, the oil companies who pump and refine the petroleum, the mining companies who rip metal from their earth, the automakers who create the damn things in the first place, and then ask for government bailouts when they don't have enough money, and then all of the other companies that exist as accessories to car culture, like gas stations, convenience stores, drive-through restaurants, etc. All of those have massive investments in the continuation of automobiles. Each one also engages in destruction of the natural world in order to profit. All of that destruction and all of that profit is maintained by a political order. So while there's nothing inherently political about walking in this political order, jaywalking can be a revolutionary act. That's also why it's illegal. It's in the same way that witchcraft is political. It's political because it's composed of human actions and embodied cultural memory from which the political system does not profit. Because of this, it's also anti-political. But to understand this, we need to delve into a little wordplay. The word politics, policy, and police all derive from the same Greek word, polis. The polis, in Greek, was a city in its ideal conceptual form. The Latin version of this word was civitas, from which we get the words civil, citizen, civics, city, and civilization. Both the polis and civitas describe the same sort of formal existence, one where human laws, economic concerns, property, and punishment are all primary. So, the polis was not just the city, but the entire order it established, what we usually call civilization. Everything outside of the polis was raw nature. It was wild, untamed, animal existence. Outside civilization were the barbarians, the heathens, the wolves, and other large predators, and all the lawless women and men. Outside the polis were the places that the laws, the judges, the rulers, and all of the other concerns of the polis held no sway. Politicians could not make laws to govern the barbarians or the wolves, because neither barbarians nor wolves recognize the authority of laws. Here, there are two things we need to remember. First, the word paganus, from which we derive the word pagan, was an antonym for civitas, or as like a friend likes to remind me, pagan is redneck in Latin. Also, again, our word police comes from polis. Police is a noun and a verb. As a noun, it indicates those who, quote, enforce the control of the community over the political order. Put another way, police are the agents of the polis, or the agents of the political order. Police as a verb is similar and it comes later. Police do policing. Men and women perform the act of enforcing the political order. They ensure that you act civil, which means, according to the civics, the society, that you obey the laws of the polis, or they make sure that you are punished when you act outside of the political order. That's what we call policing. So now, let's return to that horrendous crime I mentioned earlier, pedestrian interference with traffic. It's the will of the political order that a human not interfere with the movement of automobiles, and it is the police who would enforce this law. So, if I were to stand in an intersection, calling to an ancient goddess, the police might arrive to stop me. If they don't, and if I don't get hit by a car, then I've acted outside of the political order with no repercussions. The moment the police do arrive, however, the polis, the political order, civilization, reassert themselves to say not only thou shalt not, but thou shalt now go to jail. But jail for what exactly? For interfering with cars? Or for interfering with the entire political order itself? This is what I mean when I say that witchcraft is both political and anti-political. Witchcraft is a political act in a world where jaywalking is a revolutionary act. Witchcraft is also anti-political in that what we do often runs counter to the will of the political order. Again, private property is the best example of this political/anti-political position of witchcraft. Private ownership of land means fences, walls, asphalt, concrete. I cannot go talk to a particular tree if it's behind a fence. I cannot visit a particular grave if it's buried under asphalt. The tree behind that fence, the grave under the asphalt, and my own desire to visit either of them are political. Jumping the fence, hammering through the pavement, that's also political acts. The anti-political nature of witchcraft, as it relates to private property, is even more clear. Claiming that a tree must be open to all, that a grave should not be covered at all, and that I should be able to visit either of them without barriers, is stating that the political order should have no power over those things. Thus, my witchcraft stands against the political order. It is anti-political specifically because the political order claims the right to control my actions. So, the politics of my witchcraft are the politics of revolution. That is, the overthrow of the political order. While witchcraft is both political and anti-political, it cannot be apolitical. It cannot simply ignore the political order because that political order is destroying the earth. As Peter Gray wrote in Apocalyptic Witchcraft, I have heard it said that a land wight does not care about the politics of who summons it. This is a glib statement. It is politics which enables the destruction of the very land which the wight stands guard over. Man is a political animal. Those who say that they stand outside of or above politics are the esotericists whose clean hands are washed in the blood of those who have no choice but to put their hands into the machinery. Politics is not optional for First Nations, for women, queers, blacks, or any of the other slave classes. Abstention is a position of privilege which aids the pattern of destruction, arguing only for our impotence. The political order in which we live privileges the existence of cars over the survival of land. It privileges all of the profit derived from automobiles over the lives of forests, streams, animals, and even other humans. Witchcraft is the jaywalker, the pedestrian interfering with traffic, the human who shrugs off the demands of the polis and the enforcement of the police in favor of the wild, unruled, uncivilized earth, even in the middle of a city. If anything, the witch knows that the city is the core of the polis, the beating heart of civilization. And it's there the witch knows to strike deepest, where it is both strongest and most vulnerable. The busiest intersection is where the political order resides, and it's in those places we must start, here in a crossroads. Most witches are smart enough not to wander into intersections during the middle of a rush hour, and anyway, much of our activities are done at night, out of the prying eyes of mortals in the glare of traffic lights. If some part of you was thinking that interfering with traffic just sounds like a bad idea, we should explore that some more. Perhaps you were thinking, but some people need to drive to work. It's true, of course. Most people do, and cars are the primary means for them to do so. But again, that work is defined by the political order. If you don't work, then you cannot get money. Without money, you cannot pay rent and buy food. Without either home or food, you will die. All of that is defined by the political order under which we live, and the very fact that we understand this so well proves that we have been thoroughly colonized by it. We are civilized, politicized subjects to the will of those for whom a jaywalker is a criminal, but an automobile is a societal good. These are the same people for whom deforestation is an acceptable cost to build roads, and oil spills and climate change are mere unfortunate side effects of that societal good. We have internalized their thinking, which means that we are political subjects. I mean subjects here the same way we would speak about someone being subject to the king, or an area being subject to flooding. We are in a position of subservience, a place of being affected by forces over which we have little control. The way that we have internalized the logic of civilization, the logic of this political order, shows that we are political subjects. We measure our actions and temper our will according to this subjectivity. We don't usually cross the street illegally. We don't jump fences. We don't dig up the pavement. But we are more than just subjects of the polis. We are also the police of the polis. If you were to see a person standing in an intersection, blocking traffic, waving their arms in the air, your first inclination is probably to call 911. If you happen to be driving and someone blocked traffic that way, you're likely to curse at them for making you late for work. You'd call the police or maybe an ambulance, summoning the agents of the political order to handle this aberrancy, this outbreak of uncivilized, wild, unruly behavior. Your concern might be completely honorable. Perhaps the person is in a mental health crisis, you think. So, by policing their actions, you are doing them a favor, right? Maybe you're even saving their life. You then have become the agent of the political order. You became the police who polices for the polis, the civil servant who performs their civic duty by making sure civilization is protected. At this point, though, the polis is no longer just a political order. The civitas is no longer just civilization. When they reproduce themselves inside of you, they have become something completely different, much stronger, much harder to disentangle from the human in which they've merged. They become empire. You become empire. When we talk of empire, we usually think Rome, all the centurions, high civic pride, imperial conquest. Or perhaps we think Britain, God save the Queen, the international slave and tea trade, occupied India, colonial America. We could choose from many more empires, the French one with Napoleon, with its West African and Caribbean subjugation, or perhaps the USSR, all of those client states under Soviet control. Perhaps you're even thinking of the United States of America, undoubtedly the most powerful empire the world has yet seen. A massive surveillance state, the oppression of blacks and First Nations and immigrants, relentless foreign wars and occupations to secure an ever-dwindling oil supply, all of that with a civic religion that would have been the envy of the architects of the Third Reich. All of those are empires, each one following similar trajectories from economic greatness to economic collapse. They've all crumbled, except for this last one on our list, and that one is undoubtedly collapsing around us as I speak. We start this journey in a crossroads for several reasons. It's essential for you first to understand not just that empire is a thing that is ending, but that empire is a thing you reproduce through your actions. There are ways of stopping this, and most of them involve the active interference with the normal course of things, directly putting your body in places that the political order says it is not allowed to be. We must start by standing on the earth. Whether you are physically able to walk or not, you must become pedestrian. An extra meaning of the word pedestrian is to be poor, to be dull, or to be low class. Those who went on foot were the lower classes, of course, while their opposite, the equestrians, were rich enough to have a horse or carriage. So, standing on the earth, walking, using your body rather than the body of others to get around was, and still is, thought to mean you're stupid or uncivilized. So, we should be uncivilized. We should be the pedestrians, interfering with traffic, interfering in pedestrian ways. That is the first of the reasons that I'm starting us at a crossroads. The second is that we find ourselves already in one. Empire is crumbling, and we have the power to either prop it up or to let it fall apart. It needs us to reproduce it, to police ourselves and each other, to enforce the political order on all of the acts of wild, uncivilized chaos that constantly threaten it. We're starting here at a crossroads, at the intersection. The path we take from here determines which way we go and what becomes of all of this.